All right, good evening, everyone. It is Monday. March 9th. The time is 7:11, and I'd like to call this order of the Urbana City Council meeting to order. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu.
Here.
Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Hersey.
Here.
Councilmember Bishop.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkin.
Here.
Councilmember Quisenberry. Thank you. Mayor Williams.
Present.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. We have quorum. All right, the next item of business is approval of the minutes for February 16, 2026, Committee of the Whole. I will entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mary Ellis, seconded by Sharice. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu.
Yes.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey.
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin.
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
All right, those minutes stand approved. Next, we have additions to the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Grace.
Thank you. I would like to add a discussion on traffic requests. I would propose before G, before the items of business, so between F and G.
If that needs a second, I'll second.
All right, motion made by Grace, seconded by Chris. I am so sorry. Clerk, will you call the roll? Or is that all in favor of the?
You can do a voice vote.
Okay, all in favor of the addition?
Aye.
I have a question about the agenda.
Go ahead.
Are we just voting on the change, or are we voting on the whole agenda?
We're voting on the change.
Okay. Aye.
Thank you, Quisenberry. All right, all those opposed? All right, thank you. All right, next.
But I do have a question about the agenda.
Yes, sir. James, go for it.
The agenda states that the appointment for Verdell Jones is through April 6th, 2027. My understanding is people elected at that election are sworn in as of May 1st or the first Monday after May 1st.
Clerk.
So in response to that, James, that is when there is an election during that term. So Urbana only has elections once every 4 years. So this will be a special election for us. So the appointment before you tonight is to fill the vacancy of the 13 months until the next consolidated election, because anytime, like even once the results are certified, we can swear in for the remainder of the term, because our election happened already last year. So this is a special one. So it's slightly different when we have an appointment.
Is the election on April 6th?
Yes, the consolidated election is April 6, 2027. There will still be a primary in February of that year, but of course the primary is not the final election.
Yeah, but when does the clerk certify the election?
That's the county clerk, and I can't answer that. It's going to depend on voter turnout. And
I think it's typically 2 to 3 weeks after election day.
I don't believe it was 2 to 3 weeks this last April at all. I'm pretty sure it's pretty apparent on election night, especially for municipal elections. But that's how this has been done previously on agendas in Urbana.
Okay. I just don't see how it can be certified until all the mail-in ballots are accepted and they can come in for up to a week after the 6th.
Correct, but this is just the appointment, James.
Mary Ellis.
Would it harm anything if we moved it a week beyond April 7th?
I would advise against that. If you so choose, you could add language such that until the results of the election are certified, whichever is sooner. And I will defer to the attorney who's nodding currently. I assume that that's okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, we will now move to public input. If there are any members of the public wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name. You'd have 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, I'm Charles Warmbrun. I live on Vine Street here in Urbana, and I'm here to talk about the ordinance about the parking from Florida Avenue to, I guess, Holmes Street now. I provided you with a packet that has a bunch of information in it. At the last meeting, there were a bunch of incorrect statements made by several people. On page 1 of this packet, it's the third page, I believe, of the bylaws of the Traffic
Speak into
Commission.
the mic because I really cannot hear you.
Is this on?
Yeah,
You can't hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay, give me back 10 seconds. All right, so Miss Wu, Alderman Wu, she asked about what was wrong with the thing. It was the west side. Zeman changed his mind after the Traffic Commission passed a motion. It appears to me that he was able to change his mind in the interim period, but then he should have taken it back to the Traffic Commission to approve that. And that's what's on this page 1. And I think your attorney needs to look at that. Page 2 is the ordinance that nobody seems to care about, which is the ordinance you would be eliminating tonight that was passed in 1977. Information on page 2 through 8 is information that was garnered from the statistics up there on page 1 about the traffic. The traffic ordinance was created. It appears that this issue started in 1970. People started looking at this in 1970. There's a letter in there from somebody from 1970 asking about extending Vine Street. Mr. Quisenberry was right about Vine Street didn't go through, but it went through in 1978. There's further evidence in here in these pages that that's the case. Page 4 is a resolution by the City Council in 1976. And it says the intent is to provide 2 11-foot driving lanes, and then on the east side, 1 8-foot stall lane. So this road was designed to have 2 lanes and parking on the east side of the street between George Huff and Holmes. There's letters, there's a public notice in here. On page 5, the problem seemed to be that the person that owned the property, it was now 215. He owned 2108, 2110, 2112, 2114. He owned all that property. None of it was subdivided at this point. They had to get the easement away from him, so they ended up paying him $38,000 for the easement to that property. That's on page 5. Page 7 is a map of the project that the engineering department put out, detailing that. It also involved the intersection of George Huff, where they changed sewer systems and things like that. Page 9 is the Schedule J of the traffic codes, which Mr. Quisenberry kept talking about. And you can see there that the actual ordinance is still there. What's missing is the ordinance from Florida Avenue to George Huff. That's all you need to change. You can take it back to the way it was. Let's see here. We got 11. Well, let's go to 10 because I'm running out of time here. Page 11 simply states that this ordinance has been in place for 47 years. That's 17,155 days. It's 411,720 hours. People have been parking on that street. And he just wants to change it for continuity. Now, he submitted this thing to the Traffic Commission. He talked to Chairman Zeman about this. He wasn't at the meeting, but he talked to him after the meeting. Mr. Zeman changed his mind. You let Mr. Atterbury talk at the meeting the other night, and he talked you into letting parking on the curves and taking this away. It's unsafe to park on the curves. This is a straight line. It's safe. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. My name is Camille Cobb. I'm a professor at university. I live in Champaign, but I obviously spend time on the side of town as well. It's been a while since I've been here. It's good to see you guys again, many of you. What? You want me to pull it down? I don't know how that. This one. I could just take it. You're right. There we go. Oh, that's better. I'm here. I would like to talk a little bit, very briefly, about the surveillance ordinance. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but the one that would give transparency or force some transparency in the technologies that are used for policing and for specifically surveillance. I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of the original version before it. I know there's been some conversation over the last year or so that has been sort of watering it down. My research is specifically in security and privacy with an eye toward like ethics of technology use, and transparency is like the very beginning. Having some oversight, being able to know what's happening in our cities and towns. And I think that's just super important. We really need that. And especially knowing that today we'll be talking, there will be this presentation of the use of force report. The racial inequity in use of force in this town is really, really bad. And having transparency would be at least one step in the right direction. Thanks so much.
All right. Are there? All right.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Jessica Yassine. I'm a resident of Urbana. I've written down what I'm going to write because I'm a talker and I want to stay on task here, so forgive me if I'm looking down. Beyond being a resident of Urbana, I'm actually familiar with Norfolk, Virginia, and of course that brought interest to Chief Larry Boone because that's where he comes from. So of course, small world, right? We're both here in this little tiny town together. What I also know that from the background of Norfolk, Virginia, there is difference between Norfolk, Virginia and Urbana, Illinois. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the use of force or something like that. The report, sorry, I need to look at this, right? And what I want to raise tonight is not something that's personal, okay? It's just about data. Norfolk, Virginia is different from Urbana, and so to speak, it's a much larger city. The population of African Americans is around 40 to 43%, whereas here in Urbana, it's about 19%. Tonight, the report that Chief Boone will be reading is going to show that despite having 19% of African Americans in Urbana, we are looking at anywhere between 74 to 81% use of force being used with the African American community. My question here is that, well, first of all, Urbana is not a wealthy city. We're looking at a median income of most families here at $45K annually. We're looking at a rate of poverty level, people below the poverty line being 28%. However, we've put a lot of money into our police force, and that's okay. I mean, if we're doing this to try to lower the racial disparity, that's wonderful. However, these numbers, though, it leads us to question, like, what, as people of Urbana that are using, every tax dollar matters for us. And when we're using these tax dollars in a place for protection, in a place to lower that gap, and we're not seeing it, I'd like to know what we're doing and what our mayor and city council plans to do to help get those numbers down. And also, we want to see a return in our investment, right? When you spend that much money just in leadership alone, and then to police officers, we're fine with that if we see a return, but we're not seeing that. One of those goals that we had was building trust between law enforcement and the community. Another is reducing disparities in policing outcomes. But when we look at the publicly reported use of force data, we see a pattern that raises serious concerns. Black residents make up roughly, oh yeah, I already said all that, sorry, I'm trying to read on here what I said because I'm trying to stick to this. But yeah, so what I want to say is that there is a difference here in where our chief of police is from in Urbana. And I'm very concerned that while in Norfolk, the disparities did not lower, they stayed pretty steady during Chief Boone's tenure. I'm concerned now is how are we going to get that lower here in Urbana? I'm all for you, Chief Boone. We just want to see some numbers lower. We want to see how that's going to happen as citizens or residents of Urbana. And Mayor and City Council, I hope you guys are also keeping an eye on this. I'm sure you are. But we'd also like to hear, too, how are we going to make this happen? So yeah, we deserve a public safety system that is fair, effective, and worthy of the trust and tax dollars this community invest in it. If equity is truly our goal, then the numbers should start reflecting it. Thank you for your time.
All right. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? State your name. You have 5 minutes.
Bonjour. My name is Terry Lynn Carteraghi Morgan, and for the last few months I've been on the Urbana side of Chambana, and right now I want to kind of redirect the topic to that of the serious lack of still affordable housing, especially for those of us on the fixed retirement income. And most recently, I've made some phone calls and inquired into the city of Champaign as to what was the delay in getting a certificate of occupancy for the new Bristol Place, I say, active adult senior apartment residences. They were supposed to be done September, tentatively rescheduled for a November move-in date. And then now LeMoyneProperties.com is a domain that's for sale. And the city of Champaign's code department indicated that they were behind on 2 approvals at the framing stage of construction. So just for our metropolitan community, that puts, there were going to be 60 units available. And I said, that tells me that there isn't going to be a CO issued anytime soon. So as I started calling around looking for other rental opportunities, I'm probably, 25, 26 on the wait list, like at Edge of the Mall Apartments and Florida House. There are wait lists. And so the other concern then rolls into the lack of the temporary housing. Where can we shelter? And most specifically, the neglect by Cunningham Township to look out for women, and especially those of us who are the Monarch Mountaineers. We're over 60 years old. And the temporary shelter, I think, maybe has maybe 2.5 more weeks left to go. Their contract through the end of March, and that was restricted to men only. And so, I've been able to survive in a hotel, but that's way outside of my budget. And the particular hotel I was staying at was in Urbana. That has issues with cleanliness. A non-English speaking, a skeleton crew of housekeeping staff that has failed to understand the importance of when you've got flooding due to, bathtubs overflowing on the second floor and the hallway on the first floor flooding, and they allow it to soak up into the carpeting. The smell of mildew was choking me, so I had to vacate. And right now I let Danielle know that I'll camp out at the Cunningham Township patio just due to the need for me to try to represent those of us who, I don't know, if there's any list around of, housemates, people that are looking for places to share rent and to help us with the expenses of, having a place to live here in Urbana. But thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. All right. State your name. You have 5 minutes.
Should take a lot less than 5 minutes. My name is Stuart Levy. I live in Champaign, but I work and spend a lot of time in Urbana, so I feel like I have a stake here. I wanted to comment on how you might go about interpreting the racial disparities that are showing up in the use of force report by referring to something that Esther Patt told, I think, the city council maybe 15 years ago or a little more, with respect to traffic stops, where I hope we all know that there's a large racial disparity in them also. And one of the things that turned up when you analyzed the traffic stop data was that the disparity decreased a lot at times when it was dark. if it was easy to see, which you could interpret, and I think should interpret, if it's easy to see the race of the person who's driving, it's that that makes a difference in how it's interpreted, whether there's a need for that person to be stopped. That was years ago. The traffic stop disparity has remained high as it was then, and it still is. So I think we should keep this in mind when trying to understand what the disparity in use of force data also mean. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any other members of the public present? Seeing none, I have an email that I will read. All right, dear City Council, I do not want to see any oversight provisions removed from the surveillance oversight ordinance. UPD should not have any problem with having to create and disclose operational policies and being held accountable to them. I understand the arguments for trying to get loopholes at it, but I do not agree that it's overly burdensome to write a policy that the majority of the City Council will accept. Please do not make the regulations more complex. Let the issue of when and how to use specific technologies be handled individually. It may be appropriate for some tools to only be used for investigations or when there is a probable cause. That's fine. Handle that through the standard process instead of writing in a blanket exception. I want you to represent me, your constituents, when you vote on this ordinance. Thank you, Adam, Ward 7 resident. And that is it. All right. All right. At this time, we will move to council input and communications. Are there any members of the council wishing to provide input? Grace.
Thank you. Just wanted to announce a Ward 6 listening session, and there's a few of these on the back table. If you want to take one or take a picture. This will be Thursday, March 19th at 6:30 at the Health and Wellness Center, and an opportunity to come express concerns, be heard. Myself and the mayor, and I imagine some other city leadership will be present. If it was like the Ward 7 one, have some information and some resources there, so invite people to come out to that event. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. Anyone else? James?
No.
All right. I will say, so just a quick announcement in regards to our community service grants. Urbana's biggest grant investment in people ever is here. With the city's largest general fund investment in social service funding to date, the Community Services Grant supports programs that meet the documented needs of low-income Urbana residents, creating meaningful, lasting impact across our community. We are holding workshops so you can easily apply to. So there's a link that you'll find on our website as well, but we are seeking programs in these key service areas: domestic violence services, housing and homelessness prevention, education, immigration services, employment and job training, senior services, family support and special needs, violence prevention, food securities, youth services, and healthcare. So together, we are investing in stability, opportunity, and a stronger Urbana for everyone. So please, I encourage you all to visit our website. I will be sure to share a link at the end of tonight's meeting, if not tonight, tomorrow for sure, but just keep an eye out. And I encourage the public to spread the word as well. So thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? All right. Seeing none, we will now move to reports of standing committees, which there aren't any. So at this time, we will move to discussion items that was added by Councilmember Wilkins in regards to the traffic of Vine Street, I assume. So, floor is yours.
Thank you. If I may start us out, and I believe Councilmember Evans may also have some things to add, and obviously anyone else in this discussion. I appreciate the time to talk about it. Do you want to discuss traffic requests and the process that they're handled, and be sure that there's consistency between wards and leadership or whatever the changes may be? I think that community safety is a clear priority for all of us and has been for years in this community with this council, and I imagine with the new mayor as well, has been a clear priority. My understanding is that there's more traffic-related deaths and homicides in Urbana, and that this is a serious thing every year. So in light of appreciated watching the meeting last week and discussing some of the traffic-related items that are before us tonight, and wanted to have this discussion before those votes. I wanted to be sure that we are responding to requests consistently across the city. And I'm curious if I will mention a few instances from Ward 6, and I would like to know if these requests were added with a request ID and all the things that we've seen from James's request for parking on Vine Street, because I did not have the same experience. First instance is a stop sign on Trails Drive in Myra Ridge that I requested to the Traffic Commission in 2021 and was told that we had to wait 5 years for the next cycle to evaluate if that stop sign was necessary. Then I had repeated requests from residents throughout 2022 and 2023 for the same stop sign in that same intersection. All of those were pretty much denied, and I'm curious again if we can find out if there was an official request put into the system, if these requests ever made it to Traffic Commission, kind of what is the status. And then there was finally that stop sign added in maybe 2024. And I've heard only positive feedback from residents. I have not heard any complaints about it. I've heard multiple positive feedbacks. This intersection had a tree that's been growing that impedes the viewpoint, and every other cross street on Myra Ridge has stop signs before you cross it, except this one. So it makes a dangerous change in traffic patterns. But I was told throughout these years that it was not worthy of reconsidering, and we need to wait 5 years for the next traffic cycle, which I don't believe it made it to 5 years, and we got a stop sign before then, and I'm not sure how or why that happened. So I am curious how that was handled and if it was the same process as this request for no parking on the street, which seems like a very different process, that this was handled within 5 months and this stop sign took 3 years. Another instance that's still pending is I've had requests from a resident about a stop sign along Stone Creek in Colorado. We were told that there needs to be 4+ crashes within a year or 5 crashes within 36 months that could have been corrected by a stop sign. Based on the total accidents per year, that's a pretty high threshold for one intersection in Urbana. And also told repeatedly that stop signs aren't for slowing down traffic. And this was a resident who lived right on this intersection and was stating a higher number of accidents that were minor that weren't being reported on the city instance. Like this is someone who lives there and hears cars crashing outside of their house, and they might not make it into a police report if there was minimal damage or people didn't want to report it. And there were no other options offered, that there are quite a few requests where people have concerns about speeding, and we're pretty much told, well, stop sign's not the right fit, it's not gonna work, and that's not how we use stop signs, without options for a digital monitoring for speed, a speed bump, lane restrictions, other options to reduce speed. Also out on High Cross Road in Ward 6, Riggs has had issues with traffic incidents and lack of a turn signal. To my understanding, maybe it gets more complicated there with IDOT, who to my understanding requires 3 fatal accidents before taking something like that to a change, which I don't think is an acceptable threshold. There are options that we have requested that the city could do, like putting up a light, a street light there so that people could at least see better at that turn into Riggs. The speed has been reduced. I don't know how much of that was the city or IDOT, but I do want to highlight some of these instances in Ward 6 and be sure that the people in Ward 6 have their traffic complaints heard just as valid, regardless of who their council member is, and not just because their council member isn't the popular favorite one, that their requests aren't taken seriously. So I do want to highlight these, and I would like to understand how these requests can go through the same process and be taken seriously.
And I would like to add, I have. Can you hold on a second, James, and then you can speak? I have the similar experience, and maybe I don't understand how to process a traffic complaint, but my constituents have, since I got elected, have been on me about International Raceway going on on Illinois Street. Now, much of the speeding is justified because first responders use Illinois Street as a way to get to the east side of campus, so that's understandable. But there is a tremendous amount of speeding by residents on that road. And we initially, as a neighborhood group, thought we could get a stop sign. Of course, it's not. It's on the website. It's very clear. We don't use stop signs to reduce traffic speed in Urbana. So the request was changed to, can we have a digital that tracks the as you come to the screen, your traffic, your speed is recorded for you to see, and then you can be tracked and you can reduce your speed. I've been asking that for a year, and I don't get a response. I get John Zeman gave me yeah, we got your email, we'll talk it over, and then I never hear anything. The other thing that is on Springfield Avenue, there's street lights that are so bright on Springfield Avenue that it is causing a disruption for residents of light shining into their home. And we were asking for return to the softer amber lights for those street lights. And again, yeah, we got your email, and then goodbye, nothing done. And I don't know if I'm not doing the process right, or what can I do to get in the queue to get this resolved. So that's where I'm at with it.
I will say this. I appreciate the input, from both Grace and Chris. I will ask, anything, obviously anything prior to the last 10 months, it's not on us, but did you? Yeah, that's all I was going to say. Just send these requests to us and give us an opportunity to streamline the process. I don't want to speak to what happened prior to us being in office. So, anyone else? James.
Yeah, I would actually like this to be put on the agenda for the next committee of the whole as a discussion, so that people and maybe a direct point as to what the end of the discussion needs to be, so that we can come prepared to talk about it. I don't think adding a discussion without reaching out and talking about it is really a discussion. It's a reaction, and so I'm not even sure what the point of this is. I know that I didn't get any question from Councilperson Wilkin as to what my experience was with this process. It sounds like she's made a lot of assumptions about what my experience was. I can share many experiences that I've had as a resident of Ward 7, particularly around the crosswalk that crosses Windsor Road, that took years to get first a shelter for people crossing the Meadowbrook Park, and then additional years to get a flashing stoplight. And that was all because the delay in that was because of certain requirements that had to be met according to certain standards. And all I wanted to make sure was that the families of kids that went from mostly Ward 7 to Meadowbrook Park had a way to cross 4 lanes of traffic of people driving 45, 55, 60 miles an hour. But it was a long process, and it was challenging, and I did not feel like I got any special treatment in that process at all. And yet, there's been an implication tonight that when I raised a question, actually starting with the attorney about the underlying legal situation with no parking on Vine Street, that's how it started. It was a question originally to the attorney as to whether, because it looked like our underlying documents for our legal basis for no parking were corrupt and incorrect. And it created a situation where the consistency of how that street, based on its width, was signed. Many people may not know that it is required that we both have a sign and the underlying legal justification for a sign, whether it's a stop sign, no turn on red, no parking. But it starts there. That's how my process started. It turned into a request to the traffic commission, which is supposed to look at these things. But at no point did I feel like there was, oh, James asked this question, so we're going to expedite it. It's something that I've been looking at from before I was a city council member, because it's been inconsistent for a very long time, as the resident pointed out when they talked earlier tonight. But it's difficult to have a discussion, which is, here's the thing I'm concerned about. What do you think? That's a reaction. That's not a discussion. I'm perfectly happy to talk about these things. I totally agree that at times there's a burden put on residents, council members, to get things looked at that we know are an issue and unsafe. So I totally hear where Grace is coming from. But one, I don't think it's a discussion when you add it to the agenda and don't give your colleagues a heads up that you want to talk about it. And two, I've heard in how it was described an implication that it has something to do with favorable treatment to the preferred council member. And I don't know, that whether it's implied or outright, it's still an implication of impropriety that I don't think is justified or understood, because no one asked me about it. And so we should talk about it more. We should talk about consistency. But I would ask that it be put on the next committee of the whole, future meeting, and an actual goal of what we're looking for with the discussion be described.
Thank you, James. Yes, and Administrator White, we have those notes. We'll look at that. But we do, again, as I stated before, ask that those requests be sent so that we can ensure that this administration has an opportunity to streamline that process. Grace.
Thank you. We'll just say I think that it's appropriate to ask these questions publicly for transparency for everyone who's represented throughout the city. And then another point that is related to some of these traffic changes that may be more appropriate in this discussion is I wanted to remind us of 2021, before the previous council, when 2 members were still on council, about resolution regarding the implementation of gender-neutral language in official written and verbal communications by the city of Urbana. And the letter that went out to residents is stated, "Dear Sir or Madam." And I understand that people may be using that language with the intent of being respectful, but that in the terms of gender-neutral language, that is not respectful language. I think we could say, "Dear Urbana resident." There are a lot of other gender-inclusive terms that we could use, that we are sending these out to the public with Urbana letterhead. And so I'm also wondering, what are some kind of internal operations so that we can truly support this resolution if that was the intent to follow through and have gender-inclusive language throughout the city? So how do we make sure that's represented in our language and in our communication with residents and any of our public-facing communications?
Thank you. Is there anything else? Anyone else?
Yeah, I want to add that it is certainly reasonable to ask these questions in a discussion, but dropping it in front of everybody without any warning is more of an airing of dirty laundry or feelings of not being treated equally. Those are valid feelings, but the way that this was gone about was not what I would call a collegial approach, and that's just the way it is.
We'll say I think we're getting close to accusations of my intent here, which are not appropriate and against council procedures.
Okay. Is there anyone else? We can move forward here from this. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, thank you. The next we have is the consent agenda. Councilmember Wu, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have 4 items. Ordinance number 2026-03006, an ordinance amending Schedule H of Section 2393 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code requiring stop signs at certain intersections, Grove Street and Anderson Street at High Street. And ordinance number 2026-03008, an ordinance amending Schedule H of Section 2393 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code requiring stop signs at certain intersections, 4 intersections in Behringer Commons subdivision. And resolution number 2026-03009R, resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a right-of-way dedication, North Lincoln Avenue along the frontage of 1407 North Lincoln Avenue, which is the former fire station number 3. And finally, resolution number 2026-03010R, resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code, state motor fuel tax for Windsor Road from Philo to High Cross. On behalf of the committee, I move approval.
Second.
All right, moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Sharice. Any discussion?
No discussion.
No
No
discussion.
discussion, all right. So voice vote,
Roll call.
roll call. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes.
All right. Onward. So on the irregular agenda, we have ordinance number 2026-03007, an ordinance amending Schedule J of Section 23-183 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code, prohibiting parking at all times on certain streets from Vine Street from Holmes to Florida Avenue. On behalf of the committee, I move approval.
All right, moved by motion made by Mary Alice. I think, was that a second, James?
Second.
All right, seconded by James. Any
Yes.
discussion? Grace.
Thank you. Yes, since I wasn't here last week, do have a few questions. Vince looks ready there, thank you. Let me see, some I think were covered in the discussion. I think overall I'm trying to understand this situation. It seems to me that the city engineer and the deputy chief of police have both heard the input from the residents and have both said that they still think this is their recommendation and the best option for street safety is to have no parking on either side. Reading through the emails of public input and what we've heard tonight and last week, I'm still a little confused. Even with what I heard with public input from one of the residents tonight, that it's unsafe to park on the curve, when I thought that was the same resident who was suggesting that they keep parking on the curve in front of their house. So I am confused here, and it seems like I'm trying to understand why we would keep parking on that east side of Vine between George Huff and Pell. And my understanding is that because it is a weekly inconvenience to one resident, and I'm trying to understand the reasoning for the changes to the resolution that were made last week. So I guess for anyone who wanted to share a reason, or if you have anything from a staff perspective, or if any council members want to share their thoughts or understanding on it.
Well, the recommendation for the east side, the recommendation for the east side did come from our city engineer, John Seaman. There's data and metrics to support his recommendation in addition of the initial ask that came for the parking on the east and west from Holmes north. So my understanding is that when looking at the totality of the area, he included the recommendation for the no parking on the east and west side of the curve. After some feedback from the residents, he determined, and after his analysis of the data that was presented last week, There wasn't statistical data to support the no parking on the west side, but he did provide a recommendation for safety purposes to add the no parking along the curve based on the metrics that he stated, yes. And then that's when the feedback from council came.
And so it's still the position of Public Works and the engineering department of the city that it would be best, safest option to have no parking on the east side of Vine on that curve between George Huff and Pell.
That was the recommendation provided by the city engineer, yes.
And I guess still confused why that's not the decision of council.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, James.
James?
Well, I can reiterate what I said at the last council meeting. I brought this question up originally because the road is narrower about 200 feet north of Holmes. The road gets narrower, and from that point to Florida Avenue, it's the same width, and there's no parking on both sides from George Huff to Florida. And I was trying to understand why there was no parking signage on the east or the west side of Vine from south of George Huff to the place where it got narrow, where the narrowing happens, and the actual Schedule J was corrupted. So I asked legal counsel about this, and then it got to John Zeman's attention because of that discussion. And in the process, John asked what I was for me to explain it. And in that process, I described what I've just described to you, which was described in the original email to legal counsel. And I don't have the graphic that I had last week. I did ask John about the curve between Holmes and Pell on the west side, because there's actually white hash marks and markings on that curve that seem to imply that you should not park there. And I know from my history living on Pell Circle for the last 25 years that there are regularly accidents when people coming southbound leave the road and hit the homes or trees or other things on the west side of Pell Circle. I did not ask specifically for there to be no parking on the curve, but I asked whether that marking had anything to do with it. In the process of doing their assessment as part of the Traffic Commission, John looked at the curve and determined that the sightline issue existed for the speed of 30 miles per hour, which is what we have. And the last week when we had discussed that, it was shared with us that the speed limit would have to be lowered to 20 miles per hour to make parking on that curve acceptable under those conditions. We were advised that what we were receiving from the Traffic Commission, the report, was a suggestion based on professional opinion. At that point, there was a question asked as to whether the parking south of Holmes, which wasn't a part of my original request, could be left off. A motion was made when the thing was passed that left that off. It was seconded and it passed. So that's why it got removed. When we were discussing it, we were actually told that would be an option because we had the resident, which is not the resident that spoke tonight, but the resident that had provided feedback that there has actively been parking going on in front of their house for the entire time that they've lived there, and it is of value to them that is the only circumstance that I think influenced the outcome. My final statement was the professional opinion is the professional opinion, and I don't see any reason not to accept the professional opinion. But the outcome was to remove it and to move forward with the part that is related to the inconsistency between how no parking is regulated on Vine Street between 200 feet north of Holmes to Florida Avenue.
Thank you. Grace.
Thank you, James. I appreciate the explanation there. I'm still trying to make sense of it because we're talking about the professional opinion of the staff, and from what John Zeman gave us in the little graph there, that unless we reduce the speeds, it is not safe to have cars parking there. So I guess I'm not sure what you mean by referencing the professional opinion when the council has chose to go against the professional opinion of the or the city engineer. And then I'm trying to understand, so the amendment is because people have been parking there and there hasn't been a high enough number of issues? I guess, is that the reason for removing it?
Well, my reason for not choosing either way on that was because it wasn't a part of the thing that I was concerned about. You would have to ask our colleagues that were there and voted on it why they were comfortable with that.
Thank you. So I overall would appreciate some more time on this, and if people want to consider, and I'll maybe make a motion to send this back to Cal if there's not a time-sensitive thing on it. I don't see why we would go against what was proposed for the sake of public safety. And what I'm hearing is because it wasn't part of a council member's original ask. And for me, that's not a valid reason. What I'm seeing in here is that it might be a mild inconvenience to one resident, and the others seem to be not impacted and okay with it. So I'm trying to understand, and from the way I'm seeing it is we have public safety recommendation for an entire street versus it wasn't part of one council member's request and it might inconvenience one resident. And I'm not sure how this one is a higher bar. So I'm not on board with that. I think we need to think about overall safety in this case. And on that line too, that there were in these emails, there were requests about can something be done about speeding? And that's a big thing that we saw on that graph is people going a faster speed. It's harder to see around the curve. You're more likely to have an accident. And it seems like the response from the city was, well, maybe we could have more police there, maybe not. And I want us to seek other options. Posting a speed limit sign was discussed there. I think that's reasonable. The curve on Philo Road, we changed to 30 recently, I believe, and put a sign there, and I think that's been helpful. So I think that we need to seek other options like posting speed limit signs, maybe considering a speed bump or those digital monitors. But I think that saying that we need more police enforcement there or nothing can be done is not what I would think we should be responding to residents with. So I would like to address the actual routes of safety along this street with speed and parking on that curve, and would like to look at it from a very logical safety perspective.
Sure. So, Grace, you're not wrong in some of what you're saying. I guess my question is to Mary Alice, if you're willing to amend her motion to send it back to Cal.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I can amend my motion to send it back to Cal if there's further discussion that needs to happen.
Solutions. I love it. Let's get to it. Right.
Just confirming, James is the seconder of the motion. Are you also okay with the motion being amended to delay it to, did you say a future Cal, Mary Alice?
Yes.
Okay. James?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. We still need to vote on it, don't we? Okay.
Well, that was a friendly amendment, so yes, we will still need to vote on the action of sending it to a future CAL, but at this time, we can continue discussion if there is further discussion on the motion on the floor, which has now been friendly amended internally to be forwarded to a future CAL.
Grace.
I'm sorry, I do have at least two more questions. I apologize again for missing last week. Question is, who is the traffic engineer at the city? Or like, is that position filled? Is it a thing? And also the sign expert. I heard mention of a sign expert in the city, and the city code mentions a city traffic engineer.
We're filling the interim city engineer role now with the absence of John Seaman. His last day was March 6th, so we're actively working on filling that position internally.
So is the city engineer also the city traffic engineer, or is that a separate position?
Yeah, it's the same position.
And then is the sign expert a position in Public Works that's filled?
There is no sign expert position. We just have a handful of staff who work with these types of things frequently, so I'm not sure exactly what that's referring to.
Okay. I thought I heard that in the presentations, maybe on another ordinance last week, I believe from Carmen, but there was mention of a sign expert. But yeah, I wasn't sure, I guess, if that was an official position or just someone's unofficial designation for knowing a lot about signs.
It's MUTCD is the standard, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. That's the standard. So we have a lot of experts on that manual of practice that we follow for installation of signs in the city.
Thank you. And I think that's all for now. Thanks so much.
While we got you on the hot seat there, Vince, so help me out here. So when my constituents have a problem with traffic, do I need to go to the Traffic Commission? Because I've been doing this probably improperly, informal email to you or John or whoever, expecting something to happen. Maybe I should be doing it differently?
So the best way now, the way we're handling this request, especially in the past year and a half, 2 years now with our work order system. So if we get a request from a resident, from council, or from internal staff even, we'll enter that in. And the first thing we ask, is it an immediate life, health, safety issue that requires immediate response, like sidewalk, a trip hazard, or a fault or a pothole. Those will get routed for an inspection directly to our operations crews. They'll take a look at it. They'll do an immediate assessment, abatement. And then if it's something that needs further follow-up, we'll recategorize that request from operations to engineering concern. Then that'll queue it up to our engineering division, who will then look and rack and stack and prioritize that amongst all the other work. If it comes in from the front desk as a traffic concern that doesn't need an immediate response, we'll enter it in specifically as a traffic concern, and that'll go to typically the city engineer or one of his designees. They'll review it, they'll prioritize that, and they'll make ultimately the determination as the traffic engineer or the city engineer, that's synonymous, who'll make the determination whether that's something we can handle administratively in-house, or does it justify us taking it as an agenda item for the Traffic Commission.
Okay, so I am doing it sort of right, because you guys then categorize it where it needs to go, right?
Alrighty, guys, as a point of order, this is beyond the scope of discussion for the motion on the floor. So in the interest of a productive meeting, let's go ahead and keep the discussion focused on the motion.
Any further? All right.
Okay.
I would just say that is why I wanted to add the discussion, because I thought some of these questions might be outside of the scope of this particular ordinance.
All right. We all set? Good. All right. Thank you all.
Got to call the
Thank
roll.
you, Vince.
We still got to vote.
No, go for it. Yep,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That passes. All right. Let me see. Where are we now? We will now move on to reports of special committees, which there aren't any. We already had that. And next, we have reports of officers. So we have the 2025 Annual Use of Force Report presented by the Police Department.
So also as a point of information for our public in attendance, unfortunately, our projector is out of commission as part of the IT remodel. If they have a PowerPoint presentation, you will still be able to view it from the television in the audience. Viewers at home will still be able to view it, and council members will be able to view it on our screens here at the dais. But unfortunately, this projector is not currently operational.
Keep forgetting. How's that? All right. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I know this is a very, very important topic to all of you. With me tonight is newly promoted Lieutenant Cortez Gardner. And my philosophy since I've been here is to elevate the bench, so there will always be someone with me, or there will always be a member of command staff presenting to you. So with that, slide number 1, please. So transparency, our commitment. What you'll see is the number of incidents. We'll highlight the total documented use of force events for the reporting period. Committee findings. We'll highlight the independent internal review policy compliance process. Training, discipline outcomes. We'll highlight corrective actions or training enhancements resulting from reviews. Demographic breakdown. We'll highlight demographics data of individuals involved in use of force incidents. And lastly, type of force used. Certainly we'll highlight the class of force applied, consistent with departmental policy and definitions. Next slide, please. So what you see before you is the calls for service in 2024. This map reflects where our community is requesting police service. What you'll notice is that the calls are not evenly dispersed across the city. They are concentrated within a defined geographic area that has remained relatively consistent over time. It's important to understand that calls for service represent demand. These calls include everything from disturbances, disputes to quality of life concern, medical issues, and criminal incidents. This map shows us where residents and businesses are most frequently relying on police responses. Our staffing and department and deployment strategies are driven by data. We go where the demand exists. Recognizing this concentration allows us to focus patrol on prevention, community engagement, and efforts where they're most needed. Next slide, please. So the last slide was calls for service. This slide is a heat map of our Part 1 crimes for 2024. This map reflects reported criminal activity, and what you'll notice, it largely overlaps the same geographical area shown in the calls for service, creating what I've noticed when I first arrived here in Urbana, a figure 8. Something that really stuck out during our crime meetings during the week. This figure 8 goes back years. Out of curiosity, I went back to 2022, 21, 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15. That figure 8 remains. That concentration isn't new to Urbana or any other city that may look like Urbana. The same in Norfolk. Like many cities, crime patterns are influenced by long-standing economic, housing, and development factors that has shaped activity in these areas for decades. It's nobody's fault that's in this room here. We're talking about 1930, 40, 50. That's what we're talking about. But that went in, a lot of thought and processes went into that. It's going to take a lot of thought and processes to undo it. The key takeaway is that crime is geographically concentrated, not citywide. That allows us to be strategic in prevention, intervention, enforcement, and developing our intentional community partnerships. Next slide, please. So here's a demographic breakdown. The demographic data reflects individuals involved in specific incidents during the reporting period. These numbers should not be interpreted in isolation. Police encounters are driven by calls for service and demand, behavior, and public safety risk factors. All use of force incidents were reviewed and found to be within policy. Our commitment remains focused on constitutional policing, de-escalation, and fair service delivery across the communities. Next slide, please. So our use of force framework is as follows. Officers are entrusted within the authority of use of force when necessary to protect public safety. The authority is governed by constitutional standards and departmental policy. Force must always be reasonable, necessary, proportional to the threat. In short, the level of force used should match the level of threat considering the totality of the circumstances and behavior of the individual involved. Next slide, please. Documentation and oversight. What we have is every use of force is documented promptly and thoroughly reviewed by a supervisor, evaluated through the case management process, examined by the use of force committee, which I changed upon my arrival. One of my chief concerns regarding the use of force committee was that it did not contain the necessary command staff necessary to make certain decisions that concern me. Having our command staff involved in these processes will ensure policy compliance. Command staff are responsible for interpreting and enforcing departmental policy. It provides oversight and accountability as a higher level of review beyond peer evaluation. Having your command staff involved manages liability and risk, helps identify issues that could expose the department or city to legal risk. And lastly, connect findings to discipline or training. Command staff can implement policy changes or training based on the review. In short, command staff oversight of use of force reviews ensures consistent policy compliance, strengthens accountability, reduces organizational risk, and allows leadership to address issues through training, policy changes, or discipline. Next slide, please. National reporting compliance. This merely highlights the organizations that we report to monthly. Federal Bureau of Investigation National Use of Force Data Collection is a voluntarily program designed to gather nationwide data on law enforcement incidents involving death, serious bodily injury, or discharge of a firearm. Its primary purpose is to increase transparency, improve training and tactics, and foster information, informed, data-driven conversations about police use of force. National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS, serves as a contextual backbone. It provides the why and the where of a crime and why force was used and shows exactly what was happening when the officer decided to use force. Lastly, Illinois State Police Reporting Portal. Under Illinois law and the Expanded Safety Act, every law enforcement agency in the state must submit monthly reports to ISP detailing any use of force that results in death or serious bodily injury of a person, the discharge of a firearm, at or in the direction of any person. And since 2019, the Urbana Police Department has maintained an exceptional safety record with 0 incidents meeting federal thresholds for fatalities, serious bodily injury, or firearm discharges. Number 9, please. So here is a breakdown of our training hours as it relates to bias-free, culturally competency training. That training promotes fair and partial policing and awareness of implicit bias. De-escalation role play, scenario-based training to practice communication and tension reduction in certain calls. De-escalation emphasizes communication and slowing situations down to reduce the need to use force. Of note, the Safety Act requires at least 6 hours of de-escalation training and use of force techniques and a minimum of 12 hours of on-hand scenario-based role-playing. So, as of now, every officer in the police department is within compliance. I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Gardner, and he'll highlight some other things.
Good evening. So real quick, I want to provide you guys or the council a brief background about myself. I'm a fresh face for some see me around. Again, the chief, as you said, my name is Cortez Gardner. I've been with the Urbana Police Department since 2012. Before I was promoted to lieutenant, I was a patrol sergeant for over 6 years. Before that, I was a field training officer. During that time, I was on the use of force committee. I am one of the instructors in the department for tasers, control tactics, and firearms. During that time, I've held many specialty positions. So I look forward to meeting and talking to the council going forward. All right. So the next slide, when force must be reported. Following incidents are required to capture force. Force reporting is required when OC spray, baton, or taser is displayed. A duty weapon is removed from its holster. Anytime a rifle is displayed, a firearm is pointed at a person, even if it's not discharged. The essence of the use of force is to capture all force even when it's not known by the individual. This ensures transparency beyond just the physical application of force. To further contextualize our use of force, here is the data from 2024. Total calls for service, 24,864 calls. Incident involving force, 72. Use of force occurred in 0.29% of calls. And over 99.7% of police community interaction, no force was used. Force remained a rare outcome relative to the overall service activity. As you see, we use force very, very sparingly. The following capture the types of force used in 2024. Empty hand soft was used 42 times. This is a illustration of an empty hand soft, okay? This category includes takedown, joint locks, and officers using mere strength to overpower the resistance. Oh, let me go back, sorry. Number 2, firearm points and display was used 28 times. This ranged from a robbery suspect to a suspicious person who refused to show their hands. We are trained.
James, if you could please mute your mic. I'm sorry.
All right. We are trained. Hands are what hurt our officers. So we stress seeing hands from the day one in the police academy. Display. This picture can illustrate a suspicious person encounter when he or she refuses to show their hands. Number 3, taser display. All right, I understand that this might cause some questions, so I want to get ahead of it. In the previous slide, you saw an officer displaying a firearm. This is because not all officers are equipped with a taser, and that's a problem. We capture the types of force used, and not all our officers are equipped with tasers. The important takeaway from this use of force is that we adhere to the sanctity of life and capture all use of force in our policy. Number 4, empty hand hard. We had one incident of that. Hard control techniques include strikes. We had one incident which highlights our training on time and distance. This scenario we don't want our officers to be in because this is where we get hurt. Number 5, OC display. That was one time. I highlight that because we have had past incidents where officers have accidentally infected themselves, rendering them in a compromised position. We had 0 taser deployments, 0 OC deployed, 0 blunt impacts, 0 firearm discharges, 72 incidents in which force was used, 3 cases recommended additional training and counseling, 0 sustained policy violation, 100% reviewed through supervisory and committee process. This data reflects a continued emphasis on proportional and controlled responses. In summary, in 2024, we had no taser deployment, meaning we didn't tase anyone. We had no OC deployment, meaning we didn't spray anyone. We had no blunt impact incidents, meaning we didn't strike anyone with a baton. And fortunately, we had no firearm discharges. In closing, 2024 summary, force was used in less than 0.3% of calls, 100% of incidents found within policy, no serious bodily injury, no firearm discharges, no taser deployments, no OC spray deployments. The continued focus on de-escalation and accountability.
Excuse me, I believe that concludes our presentation. For a matter of public information, uses of force have gone down almost every year since 2021. In addition to that, the young lady that spoke earlier, although she meant well, I think a mere search of how I was able to reduce use of force in Norfolk will highlight some clarity that yields our presentation.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you both taking the time out, and Cortez, you did good for your first time, sir. Are there any questions, discussion? Chris?
Thanks for the presentation. Let's see. I've got some questions and I do have some comments, but I'll start with the questions first. So I want to go back to the review of use of force. And it's my understanding from reading all the documentation that and correct me if I'm wrong, but a supervising sergeant first reviews the officer's report, correct?
That's correct.
And when we say report, we're talking about a written report?
Yes.
Okay. And then that goes then next to the division lieutenant, correct?
Yes.
The report. And if those two supervisors approve the report, then it doesn't go to the use of force committee. It's settled as a authorized use of force. Am I understanding that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So what I guess I was surprised by is, and Chief, you corrected this a little bit in your January 10th memorandum, but where is body cam?
I don't understand the question.
Well, what I'm asking is, do the supervisors review body cam? And why wasn't that written in the use of force report? They do review body cam. Okay, and I guess what I'm telling you is that it was missing in your report, is what I'm telling you. That body cam were not referred to at all. And to be fair, like I said, your memorandum does mention that the review of body cam happens by those two supervising officers. So what I'm saying is it just wasn't in your report. And then I guess I talked about it was mentioned June 24th, 2023, to better contextualize these use of forces. And I would submit again that not only total calls for service, but also it's recommended that what kind of call was made. And when you say calls for service, we're talking about 911 calls summoning police to the area. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Correct, okay. So it's not necessarily officer, and you're not patrolling around and officer sees something.
It includes
It
that
could,
as well.
it could.
No. It includes that as well because they will have to get on a call. They have to put themselves on a message.
Okay.
You follow me?
Okay, so you're saying the officer has to call it in and then?
Correct.
Okay. Also, it would be helpful to contextualize these uses of forces. Was an arrest made?
I suppose in most cases there was an arrest. In some cases there may not be.
Okay. Also, well, I mean, it would be helpful to know, how many times that happens. I would be surprised that use of force was used and no arrest was made, but.
So sometimes to detain a person, anytime we use any element of force, see, folks contextualize force as something being aggressive or something that will yield an injury. Anytime we take somebody's hands and put it behind their back, that's use of force. Anytime we remove a weapon, whether a person see us remove it or not, that's use of force. We capture all those things, and sometimes they don't yield into arrest.
Okay.
You follow me?
Yeah, well, yeah. And that's it. Well, I hate to say it this way. It happened to me that way. So anyway, also it would be helpful to know how many of these involved a mental health subject, a mental health issue. That would be helpful to contextualize these. And then also, if there was an arrest, what type of criminal offense was charged? Also, like you just mentioned, whether an illegal weapon was seized, and also if there was a conviction. I think what would contextualize all that use of force to help the public understand it was probably a justified use of force. And I think,
So, yeah. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Use of force, whether there's a conviction or not, doesn't necessarily equate to one another.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think that's right. Also, whether there was a complaint filed afterwards and went to the Civilian Police Review Board, which I don't think could be included in your data here this year. Probably not. It never happened, right? That you're aware of. No complaints is what I'm asking.
Regarding use of force?
Yeah. There was never any.
I think recently there's been one.
There's been one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's what I had. I'll let you folks.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Mary Alice.
Hi. I always like it when people give me numbers. So my main question is, we have a lot of different categories for use of force, which is nice because we can really see kind of the spectrum of use of force. Are these definitions that we're using the same as the other people within our area, either countywide, statewide? I'm trying to understand, how can we compare between these different areas?
The definitions may vary just a little. We added the definitions once we started posting information on social media for public consumption so that people could readily understand the type of force, what it looks like, things of that nature, which is why we had the illustration during the presentation. But the spirit of use of force will be the same, regardless of whether it's Champaign, Urbana, or wherever the place may be.
So the soft, was it the soft hand?
So
Is that
give an
right?
example, and they call it soft hand, what do
Soft control tactics.
Okay.
So in Norfolk, it's called soft hands.
Very similar.
It's very similar.
Okay. But
Yeah.
comparable.
Yes.
All right. And I don't know if Champaign publishes a use of force. They do. Okay. Thank you. I'll go look that up.
All right, thank you. Grace.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation, and I'm glad to see numbers that 99.7% of the responses involve no force, and definitely appreciated some illustrations and explanations on the type of force. So thank you for that, Lieutenant Gardner and Chief Boone, for that presentation. Some of the questions were already addressed. I guess before I forget, I'll say that I agree with Chris that it would be helpful to add to this report if an arrest was made in that incident, in that use of force, is I think what maybe the request or recommendation was. I think that's a good idea. Also, the type, if yes, what was the type of offense? I think that would be helpful information as well. Might be a challenge to include if that had involved a mental health or an addiction issue, but I think that's also very helpful contextual information. Some of my questions, I found it interesting that, mentioning that not all officers have tasers and that you think that that could be improved if they did. And so I was wondering why they don't, and do all officers carry a gun?
Yes, every officer in Urbana carry a firearm. Not every officer carry a taser because of the restriction of one of the requirements was the 40-hour CIT training. It's very difficult getting officers in that training because it's held once and twice a year. And to get the number of officers we needed through that training, we will be so far behind. It would take years. Also, part of the Safety Act, I believe it now changed, but when the Safety Act was basically developed, it had a restriction that officers need to be on the street or be a police officer for 2 years. So that's 2 years before they're able to get the industry standard piece of equipment, 2 years before they're able to have a piece of equipment to have an option, a less lethal option.
So recognizing that, Councilwoman Wilkin, we are in the process now of starting a process where every officer can have a taser. Anytime we recognize potential blind spots, we want to address it as soon as possible. So in a very, very, very near future, we are going to make that happen.
Is it trying to make sure that you can get as many people as possible in the training cycles so that they can have a taser?
We are going to do some in-house training. We've already established some communications with Aletsby and state to ensure that we dot every I and cross every T to ensure that we are in compliance with the Safety Act and any other regulations. So yes.
Thank you. Appreciate that information. Some other questions. You had shown that there was over 2,000 hours of de-escalation training since 2022. And I was wondering, is that cumulative hours for the department or is that per officer? And are we still doing the de-escalation training annually?
That was a total amount of hours for the department.
And are we still doing de-escalation training annually?
The Safety Act mandates that you do it within a 3-year period. So we have within a 3-year period to ensure that our officers go through not only de-escalation, but de-escalation role-playing, as well as other training that we brought in on our own, such as ABLE, things of that nature, to try to minimize use of force.
My understanding is that Urbana, we do have a more strict requirement of every year of de-escalation training that was implemented sometime within the past 5 to 10 years. But we can check that. I'm getting a lot of strange looks, so maybe not, but that was my understanding, and we can check that. And you said that 100% of the incidents were within policy, but there were 3 cases that required training or discipline. I'm just wondering how those 2 things add up.
So those 3 cases was recommended for additional training and counseling. From my experience on the use of force committee, we can watch a video and the force is fine. However, I can't not see bad tactics. For example, maybe this officer would need more training on room clearing, or if he's conducted a traffic stop, he's standing in a bad, he or she is standing in a bad position. So that's what we're talking about, counseling or additional training.
Thank you. And then the question, like for Chief Boone, if you're willing to take it, what the last permanent chief of police called the $1 million question is, why are there such disparities by race of use of force in Urbana, and how do we address that?
I think, as we said, since I've been here and since 2021, those incidents are going down. Okay, we address those by looking for fleas, so to speak, in some of our video reviews. When we see things that that aren't necessarily on the level in terms of police interactions, reasonable suspicion, things of that nature. I think what we want to do is look at how we can reduce disparities, but more importantly, when it comes to disparities, there's a reason why I couched the first 2 slides the way I did. This isn't unique to Urbana. I've seen it in Norfolk and I've seen it in other places. Council, folks before you all, redlining, lack of opportunities, things of that nature. There's no way in God's earth that a figure 8 can be consistent for decades. That only comes about through decisions that were made, so that's so. And again, this is no disparity to anyone here. That's just the history of our nation, and it's the history of policing.
All right. James, did you have anything?
Sorry, I had to unmute here. I want to go back to something I think Chris was asking about. I do think in the future it would be useful to know the percentage of use of force incidents relative to calls that result in arrest and relative to calls that don't result in an arrest. So to make it more clear, I think it would be valuable for us to know as council in those calls that resulted in arrest, what percentage of those resulted in use of force, and in calls that didn't result in an arrest, what percentage of those resulted in use of force. I understand that it is a really small number, but I think there is a distinction there that may be just worth surfacing the next time we get this information.
All right, thank you. Grace. Sharice.
How many patrol cars do we have that run through the city of Urbana every day?
Our
Per
minimum
shift. Per shift.
So I can answer that question this way. Our minimum manning between 3 a.m. and 11 a.m. is 3 officers and 1 sergeant. From 11 a.m. to 3 a.m., our minimum is 4 officers and 1 sergeant.
And I'm asking mainly because having been raised in the city of Urbana, Urbana schools, whole thing, I was used to seeing patrol cars in my neighborhood. I always actually felt safer because of the simple fact that we didn't have lights and sidewalks and all that where I grew up. And my question is, I ask this question because I wonder if your use of force, period, is due to lack of being able to have patrol cars that interact with and are noticed and known within the community. That's when I've not seen, and I don't see on a regular basis, patrol cars in my neighborhood, to just be honest. And I often have asked if there is 1 patrol car per ward per shift.
So in Urbana, I don't know if everyone knows, but the city is divided by beats.
Mm-hmm.
Per beat, we have 1 officer per beat.
Okay. And that means what?
So that 1 officer, he or she is primary for the calls of service. So if they have a call somewhere else in 6-1, then their primary focus, they will be out of service until they free up to patrol the area or until they get the next call for service.
Okay. And so each shift, there could be an issue that is going on in one side of town and something happening, popping off on the other side of town, and we have to wait for somebody to show up. I'm just asking. And if that is, like I said, if that can also be one of the reasons why there is such a disparity regarding.
Yes, we can have something, some type of incident that is occurring down south that might pull every patrol officer we have down south to help deal with the incident, leaving the rest of the city blind. From my experience, when there is a priority call, meaning a call that We just can't allow the wait. We will ask our partners from U of I or Champaign County to go handle that call, especially if it's a life-threatening incident.
Okay. Now, do you think that that may be an issue, a part of the problem because of the fact that we just have, our communities don't, see Urbana police patrolling enough if they don't know who these people are?
I do think, I know where you're going. I do think relationships are important.
Right.
Relationships do reduce use of force, which
Okay.
is why community relations is so strong in my heart. One of the things I was able to demonstrate in other places, when we started developing relationships, use of force went down, arrests went down. So we are in the embryo stages of trying to do just that here. I want to thank you all for giving us the 8 additional officers. It's affording us an opportunity to at least start that. Okay, and I think if we continue to make incremental steps the way we've had been the last 2 years, we'll see a reduction in these encounters with minority groups. That's just what the data shows. That's what my experience shows. And next year, I'm hopeful, very hopeful, once we stand up some of the programs that the mayor has as it intersects with some of our contacts where they occur the most. Where they occur the most is the bottom half of that figure 8. So that's where we plan to spend the bulk of our time.
Okay. I was just wondering. I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Grace.
Just want to be sure I'm looking at the right thing. It looks like you said there were 72 uses of force in 2024, but I'm seeing on the report 89 on the table that's listed.
We are expecting that question, so have at it.
So the reason between the two numbers is the 72 incidents. So no matter how many uses of force involved in one incident, we still count it as one incident. However, it's counted in the types of force used during that incident.
So if there's one incident, one officer used soft hands, one officer deploys his taser, we capture it all. Make sense? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead. Chief,
I just want to take a moment to recognize Dr. Daniel Urban. He's a part of our use of force committee. He works with the University of Illinois. Daniel, if you would just stand, if you're still here. He's been very instrumental in helping us see uses of force through the lens of civilians. I'm hoping that we can continue this process. I hate to lose him, but if we do, we'll look for someone suitable as well. So I just wanted to recognize him for his efforts in helping us become a better department.
Thank you, Dr. Daniel. We appreciate you. We appreciate you, gentlemen, for taking the time. Chief, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Cortez, good job, sir. All right. We will move on to what I think the majority of the people in the audience has stayed for. Verdell, you still have time? No, I'm joking. All right, this evening we have a mayoral appointment to fill Ward 4 Alderperson seat. It is an honor to present Mr. Verdell Jones Jr. III for a term ending April 6, 2027, the date of the next consolidated election. Mr. Verdell has an extensive background and experience, having most recently served as a firefighter with the City of Champaign Fire Department, where he provided emergency response, rescue, and medical care to the residents during times of crisis with professionalism and compassion. In addition to his career in public safety, Verdell has served as a volunteer firefighter with the Eastern Prairie Fire Protection District, further demonstrating his commitment to regional service. Verdell is a director of a youth-focused non-for-profit organization that uses sports as a platform to mentor, support, and redirect our youth. Verdell, I will have you come on up to the front here. Have a seat in the hot seat. Don't worry, there's no questions. This is just formality. I will ask our amazing council for a motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Verdell Jones.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment of Verdell Jones III to the position of Ward 4 Alderman, and for, where's my dates?
6.
For a term ending April 6, 2027, or the next, say it again, Darcy?
Or upon the certification of results from the next consolidated election.
There it is.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, seconded by Chandra. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir. So I'll have you meet me up front, and we'll get you sworn in. Didn't have my Britney Spears mic on me. So. All right, Verdell, go ahead, hold your right hand up. I like the tie, All right, sorry, stay focused here. All right, I say aye, you state your name. I,
Verdell Jones III,
having been appointed to the office
have been appointed to the office
of Alderperson for Ward 4
Alderperson of Ward 4
in the city of Urbana,
in the city of Urbana,
in the county of Champaign, Illinois,
in the county of Champaign, Illinois,
aforesaid,
aforesaid,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Alderperson,
of the office of Alderperson,
Ward 4,
Ward 4,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, sir. I'll have you sign with me. We'll both sign and get a couple pictures. So, you sign there first.
Sandra. Hi. Glad to see you. Huh? Oh, you haven't seen my hair since I cut it.
Don't worry, you'll get a copy of this back too. So, all right, welcome. Verdell, you got a little taste of the action, man. So I hope you're ready. But I'm looking forward to working alongside you. And thank you for stepping up. With no further business before this body, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a great night.